Hi all, and welcome to week 3. So last week you completed your grammar test, and you also did some brainstorming for your literacy narrative, which is the first major paper that we're going to write. If you haven't seen the video yet covering how the literacy narrative works, make sure to go back and review that before you attempt any of the stuff you're going to do this week. This week we're going to focus mostly on drafting and writing out the literacy narrative. We're going to look at some examples, and then at the end of the week you'll do a little bit of preparation for the next major paper that we'll write. So the first thing that you'll do is you're going to complete this literacy narrative sample quiz. This is pretty straightforward. You can see here there are 2 sample papers for this paper that you're going to write. These are both a lot longer than the one that I'm expecting you guys to write, but you can look here and you can see the format. You can see some of the details they're using. You can see how they've put their stories together. And you'll also see 2 different forms of literacy here. One of them is writing about learning to read. One of them is writing about another form of literacy, which is learning to speak in public. So go ahead and read over both of those. It shouldn't take you very long. And then you're going to write some summarizing information for each one of them. For each one, tell me what the problem in this story is. And then also tell me who did the author go to for help. So you should end up with 4 answers altogether, 2 for this one, 2 for this one. So make sure you read both very thoroughly and make sure you answer those. These will help you immensely when you're going and actually writing your stories. Okay, the next thing that you'll need to do is an outline. Both of these, by the way, are due on Thursday the 4th. What I'm asking you to do for your outline is to organize your story into the following 5 parts. These 5 parts generally make up the paragraphs of a narrative, like the one that we are writing. For this exercise, you only need the most basic parts. So there's generally 5 parts to any story that you're going to read, especially one that's short. First, you'll have an introduction, and this is where you set up the scene and the characters in your story. So, who does this involve? When did this happen? How old were you? What grade were you in? What was the setting like? And then tell us a little bit about the problem. Did you struggle with reading at this time, or something like that? Then you'll have a description of the complication. This is where you first face your problem that you're going to have, and usually it's where you struggle quite a lot. So in one of the examples that you'll see, one of our people that was having their problem was talking about how they never really liked reading, and how they had struggled with it a lot growing up, and they thought that people that read were nerds, right? So that was his description of the complication. Tell us about yours. Maybe you had to put together a paper for your teacher, and you had no idea how to write a paper, and you just stared at the cursor blinking. Maybe you had to read a really big book, and you couldn't focus on the book. It was too hard to actually focus. Or maybe you read the whole thing and then you forgot it. Maybe you had to learn how to play your position in sports, and you couldn't remember the routes you were supposed to run, or whatever. So whatever the problem was, show us that problem, show us you failing at it, first of all. Evaluation of the complication, this is where you start to overcome that problem. You figure out a plan for getting past it. This is where you start working harder. This is where you start practicing reading for 30 minutes a day, or you start taking notes to help you remember what happened in the book, or you start studying your playbook and practicing extra if you're doing the sports analogy. If you're learning to drive, this is where you start driving around in a parking lot or something like that. The next part is your resolution. This is the exciting part where you overcome your complication. This is where you get into the zone and you actually write that paper you were trying to write, or you start to really connect with the book that you're reading, or you have a really important game that you do well in, or something like that. And then finally, what you learned. This is where you'll show us. Like what you got out of this that doesn't have anything to do with that form of literacy. Maybe you got confidence out of it going forward and tackling other problems. Maybe you, if you're writing about a bad experience, maybe you learn to protect yourself too much or something. But whatever you got out of it outside of that, talk about that. You can see examples of this in the sample papers that you'll read. So here I have an outline from one of the actual papers. You can look over that. And then next you're going to add details. So for every action you can think of that needs to go in this section, it doesn't need to be in order yet, but just everything that you can think of about the setting, the people that were there, how you felt, how you acted. Just make sure that it's organized the way that it's going to be, and then when you go back and use this later to write your paper, you'll have all of those details down and you'll be able to use them when you're writing. So yeah, complete this outline before you start actually trying to write the paper, which will be the next step. So the next step is the actual literacy narrative. This will be due on Friday, April 5th. The samples are still here. This is the same assignment sheet that you saw before. You should complete this on a Google Docs or a Microsoft Word doc, and either way, submit it as a file. Submit it as a Word doc or a PDF. Use your outline, work through it. You need to have at least 500 words. But a lot of people end up getting carried away, and if you do, that's totally fine as well. Do not try to cheat on this, though. Again, obviously, as it says here, you're writing about yourself. The computer is not going to know anything about you, so it's not going to work either way. So just tell us a story about you. Make sure that it's 500 words. Make sure that you balance it out so that it's not rushed at the end or anything like that. Yeah, you don't need sources or anything like that, but try to match the formats that you see in the sample paper. This is called MLA format. Well, maybe not this one, but yeah, this one is. So last name and page number in the top right of each page. Your heading should be on the first page. You should have a title that isn't just, paper one or something like that. Give us a title that's related to it. Try to have 5 paragraphs and break it down into those 5 parts that I just talked about, at least. This lady has more paragraphs than that. And but make sure you hit all 5 of those sections. So this will be due on Friday. Over the weekend, I'll go through these. I will give you all feedback on them that I will be able to write directly onto the files that you upload here. And then on Monday with the announcements, I'll attach some feedback that will sort of cover everyone. And I'll show you how to find that feedback in your own papers. Yeah, so make sure you have your document uploaded by Friday. If you turn it in after Friday, you may or may not get as much feedback as everyone else, and you may or may not be able to write a final draft. All right, so once you're done with that, your last assignment for the week is by Sunday. You're going to complete these 6 questions here. You're going to talk about personal research that you have done outside of school. So this could be something as simple as looking for what school to go to, or looking for a restaurant to eat at, deciding what movie to go to with your friends, deciding, figuring out where you're going to travel to, or figuring out hotels or Airbnbs or whatever. It could be deciding what job to get. It could be deciding what car to buy. So for that, go ahead and fill out all of these different parts. I'm going to go ahead and make a video attached to this where I'll go through an example for myself, so you should be able to see that when you open this. But I don't want to leave that as part of this video. Okay, guys, so go ahead and complete those for this week. Those are your 4 assignments that you have to complete. The literacy narrative will probably take you a little while. For in-class people, it takes about 2 hours, and usually typing online it'll take longer. But it shouldn't be too hard, because you're the source for this paper, and you know everything that you need to write about. All right, have a good time, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.